tell me, let me guess, you're from the town that I love best. Talk Memphis, I wish you would. Talk Memphis, you sound so...
Today, we have done a little bit... we've done a show similar to this in the past. It's called Now I'm Ready. Today, we're going to talk about getting yourself ready to invest. It's kind of a precursor to that. Yeah, Dan Butler with CrestCore Realty is here with me.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Let's dive right into this. Getting yourself ready to become a real estate investor. I get tons of calls every week from investors, and half of them are experienced, knowledgeable. They've read, they've listened to podcasts or this show or Bigger Pockets or something, and then about half of them are just kind of dipping their toe in the water.
Yeah, they think they want to do it. They've heard good things. They're trying to decide, is this something they want to do?
Right. So, I have something that I tell everybody, and I go through it. I usually, use the analogy of, hey, we're a quick moving brokerage. We have lots of sales and transactions every month with experienced investors.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't that we don't want to spend the time with you, but what we need you to do is to get a little further. I use the floors on a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
We're moving at 10 to 11 on a 15-story building. We're moving pretty quick. If you're at 1 and 2, I need you to get to 4 or 5. Just educate yourself a little bit more. What are some of the things, Dan, that when you think of getting yourself ready to be a real estate investor that you think of?
Well, to me, some of it just starts with humility. Just understanding that, you could be the smartest person in the room, and investing in real estate, you know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So we all started at that same spot. So just recognizing that you don't know it, and recognizing that you got to be a student,
mm-hmm.
and you got to learn, and you got to start from somewhere. So the worst investor is one that thinks they know it all and just starts buying. You know what I mean? That's like a train wreck waiting to happen. So I think one of my goals personally for this show is this specific show today is just kind of like, let's get the mindset ready. Let's understand the pros, cons, the limited beliefs, the issues that you're going to face.
Mm-hmm.
Just mentally. This is all about mental today. I mean, to me, it's getting over that hump. Because
I talk to a lot of people that Dan or say, hey, I'm ready. I want to do this. And they've been telling me that for years, 2 years, 3 years. I've got some people that I actually have a friend that came to me last week and said, hey, I'm getting ready to do it, get into this, and he's been telling me that for almost 3 full years.
Right.
I'm ready to get into it. I was like, well, man, you just tell me, but
just do it.
You've got to take that plunge at some point. Because you can overthink this, you can overanalyze it, you can overdo it, because there's a fine line of, hey, I don't know anything,
mm-hmm.
and I'm, I got to know more. You always have to think that. So there is kind of that line of, hey, take that plunge and jump off the bridge.
I mean, if you think you've just bought your personal house a couple years ago, well, I bought a house before. This is
it's completely different.
Completely different. So I mean, I think just understanding you need to be a student of the game. And then you just got to have that desire to have, something more, something,
mm-hmm.
something bigger than just your 9 to 5 or, what you're currently doing. You got to have a desire for some long-term different, outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
What's the definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing over and over, expecting the same result, right?
That's right. You're not going to, if you want these goals, but you're continuing to do the same thing that you have that hasn't reached them, then that's, that's in the insanity definition.
Yeah, I mean, there. And I think we're just trying to bust through the mindset of, just pour money in your 401k and that's it. You can take it another, 10x level, as Grant Cardone talks, as we love to reference him. But I mean, you got to just consider a lot of different things. This isn't a get rich quick.
Yeah, I was about to say things to consider when we're talking about getting yourself ready. What are some of those things?
It's not get rich quick. I mean, I've been doing this since 2001.
Yeah,
it's a slow burn, a slow process, lots of up and down. I mean, it's a we always say it's a marathon, not a sprint. Mm-hmm. So if you think this is a sprint, this is probably not the business for you.
No, or flipping is for you,
or flipping, or wholesaling, some transactional, quick money type stuff. But if you're looking to buy real estate and hold it, and maybe you do some flips and some wholesale or just different things along the way.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not a flipper.
Right.
But if I have an opportunity that comes in front of me, I'll do it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But that's not your main.
No.
Your main goal is to get some buy and hold, and so you can sit on the beach in 25 years. And
that's the plan, man. Hopefully, a little quicker than 25 years. But yes.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right.
You know, you got to. To me, it's always you got to put more than just your 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you think it's just going to be like part of your day,
that ain't gonna work.
No, I mean, there was years I put 90 plus. I mean, I still put a lot of hours, but I mean, there was years I put 90 plus hours, my day job, and I was building a real estate, portfolio. Mm-hmm. And that you got to understand, like, you got to put that extra effort. Whatever's worth having is worth putting that extra effort. Now, long term, in the next few weeks, we'll talk about your team and leveraging others.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it all has to be on you.
Yep.
But what I am saying, you're going to put extra. It's just not going to come. Just pushing buttons.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes total sense. You're not going to be able, because if you could, Dan, everyone would do it. If it's something that you could spend an hour and a half on a couple of times a week while you're doing your full-time job, then there would be way more people doing this. Yeah. What makes this, I guess, unique is that it does take, almost a full-time effort after your regular job.
Yeah, early morning, lunches, after work, weekends, whatever it takes. I mean, you got to start somewhere. Number one, the education piece.
Yep.
And understanding. So that's going to take. I mean, think how many classes MIG puts on. They had one last Saturday, on land trust, and they've done, foreclosure auctions, and they've just done all kinds of classes in education that you can go, and there's hundreds of people there, but they're trying to educate themselves. So like, versus sitting on the couch and watching basketball, and nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But long-term, exponential, game-changing type lifestyle, wealth creation, all that stuff.
A little bit.
Get yourself ahead. You're just going to be in the grind of the 9 to 5 if you just stick to that mentality. So
pro athletes are like this a little bit, and that they're always thinking, and I don't mean all pro athletes, but the Kobes and the Bryants and the LeBrons and the people that are really standing out. I mean, they're in the gym all the time. You know what I mean? They're practicing and working at their craft all the time. Other people are partying and chilling. They're in the gym working on their craft. This is a similar type of
like
thing.
Larry Bird used to shoot thousands after practice, right?
Yeah, it was. The work that the guys put in, like, okay,
they just think show up.
2 hours of practice is over. I mean, no. I mean, Larry would go shoot 1,000 shots after practice,
right.
and Michael would go and do his thing, and LeBron, I'm sure, has a routine. These guys don't just come to practice when the team makes you to and go. So I'm saying all that to tell you that you've got to make your own decision with this.
Right.
You have to. You can't just say what Dean and Dan tell you to on the radio or what Bigger Pocket says. You have to do whatever it takes. And I'm gonna give my wife credit here. She had a good saying with this. We were talking about something else, but I was talking about someone putting their time into a job and putting their time into something, and she had a great saying to it. And this is it: you will reach your goals and you will reach your potential when time doesn't matter to you anymore. Mm. And what I mean by that is, like, you're not looking at the watch going, man, I've spent 2 hours doing this,
or I got an hour to go. Before
I can go. I've set my limit today. 40 more minutes, and I can go to the bar, or I can go visit with friends, or whatever it is. When time doesn't matter to you, this will become a successful venture for you. Whenever you throw that time slot out, and you're just doing what it takes to be successful. Mm-hmm. That's when you'll start to everything will click to you. What else do you think of, Dan, when we talk about things to consider?
Yeah, just there's no secret formula. Mm-hmm. Everybody thinks they have a secret sauce. How many people you meet out there? It's like they kind of hold everything close to the vest. Like, so people ask me about the radio show all the time. Like, y'all tell everything y'all do and what y'all haven't done or won't do, or mistakes you've made, and coaching people how to do all this stuff. And I'm like, man, number one, I want to do that, give back because others are giving to me. Mm-hmm. And number two, 99% of the people you share this stuff with won't do anything with it.
That's the point.
Yeah.
I could tell you if there was a secret sauce, I could give it to everybody.
Right.
Only one person out of 100 is going to take it and use it.
That's right. Which, and happy for those guys, that's who's going to, as we're talking today, that's who, I don't know if I say deserves, but who's earned, that extra, that wealth creation, that having some assets, under the belt after their 9 to 5.
When I'm talking to an investor, I say that all the time. There's no secret sauce. I just tell them.
Basics.
I say, hey, when I'm talking to you on the phone, Mr. Investor, I'm not telling you anything that you can't go listen to or go find or go hear somewhere else.
Yeah.
There's no real secret sauce that CrestCore Brokerage is coming up with to find you houses. We're just working hard. We're being very honest and upfront with you. Same thing as if I'm telling you as an investor how to get started, not necessarily just with us, but just period. There is no hidden treasure secret formula.
Right.
It's just not there. Most people will share everything with you. It's just a matter of you as an individual doing it or not doing it.
Correct.
It's your mindset. We're talking about that today. So it's your mindset of how you're going to get to it. I'm talking with Dan Butler of CrestCore Realty. We're talking about getting yourself ready to invest. We're talking about things to consider. There's no get rich quick. This is a marathon and not a sprint. There's no real secret formula. We've talked about what else, Dan, when we talk about things to consider.
You're going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt about it. Like I was talking to an investor yesterday in California, and it's just like he was looking at $600 rentals, $30,000, and I was just being brutally honest. And so here I am being brutally honest. You're going to fail. You're going to lose time. Yeah. You're going to lose money. You're going to be stressed out. You're going to get emotional. And you're going
to blame us.
You're going to blame us. That's right. You're going to blame somebody. Mm-hmm. So we've all been through those different levels. There's years that I paid property tax out of my W-2. It is what it is. I tell people that, like, there was years, and I chose to put my notes on short term for a reason, which made it really tight. So there was stress involved. There was time, there's communication with your family to make sure they understood what you're doing.
Yep.
So this isn't just again, no secret formula, not get rich quick. It's just putting your head down and learning and doing,
Mm-hmm.
So, you have to, you're going to fail with your partnerships.
Yeah.
You're going to fail with, people you work with, your friends. You're going to have to redo, how many times we've seen investors come in and say, I want that $30,000 houses.
Yep.
And then a year later, they've sold all those and now they're buying $75,000 houses.
I have had that happen multiple times with investors.
Because they think, you and I both, we don't try to talk them out of it.
No.
But we just try to be brutally honest on the pluses and minuses of each category.
Yeah. I'll tell an investor right up front, an out-of-state investor, that you do not need to get into anything under $50,000. And truthfully, maybe it's $60,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's a fine line right there. It's a $50,000 house. It better be in a good area. But if it's 50 to 60, I think you're kind of in the gray area. Anything above 60, I think, is where you should be as an out-of-state investor. Now, us local guys, we'll buy. I'll buy something cheaper than that,
right? Just
because I'm here and we can handle it. And that's what I tell investors. Hey, I work for a company where we manage and do everything here. I can get things done pretty quickly. You're 2,000 miles away. You'd prefer not to hear about a loose toilet seat. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, those things to me, because they're taking that leap of faith of something that's so far away. And we're talking about this like no one from Arkansas invests here, but I mean, like the 90% of my clients are from the West Coast or North in New York or whatever it may be.
I think we've had one client from Arkansas, by the way. Well, two. I think of two. And one sold everything.
Yeah, Ferris.
And now he's back in Arkansas buying commercial. But
so that 50 to 60 grand mark is where I tell investors don't go below it. And I mean, I shouldn't say absolutes because we try not to do that on the show, but you're setting yourself up for a much riskier venture if you go below.
It's just a much more volatile situation. So again, it's the risk reward thing. Like same thing with stocks. I had a great meeting with a financial advisor Friday, and he was talking about how his magic number is 20 stocks. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, that's so interesting because we always say 10 houses. His was 20 stocks, and his point was you're going to have one dog that just is tanking, but 19 aren't going to tank all at the same time.
Right.
And so that's why he's a firm believer in stocks versus mutual funds, but that's a whole nother story. This was a fun exercise for me, because I started thinking about what does it take, to get yourself ready. What does it take? You're going to have to get your patience,
mm-hmm.
What kind of patience level do you have? Mm-hmm. What kind of perseverance level, like what,
mm-hmm.
Where do you stand in that realm?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to put sweat equity. We keep hammering that home. It's not a 9 to 5,
no.
Happens during your 9 to 5. This is overtime.
I think you should hammer it even more. It's not, we've said it a few times, even already this morning. you're not going to be able to do this on your lunch hour.
No.
This is not something, if you haven't researched this enough yet and you're just now getting into it, this is not something you're going to be able to do at Nukes at lunch.
Yeah.
You know, I handle a lot of things at Nukes at lunch, but
yeah, that's right.
yeah, but you're not going to be able to get started and get this done in an hour time frame. And you go home and don't think about it anymore, and you're not thinking about it on the weekends. I mean, I don't want to say full-time job, but it's close to it, especially at first.
If you're going to massive scale, like, and I say massive, 10, 20, 30,
yep.
You know, I don't know if you know this, I think we've talked about this before, but most of the houses nationwide that are investment property, you know, probably 90% are one or two house owners. Yeah. You know, we still talk about these hedge funds that bought all this stuff, but
they're the 1-2%ers.
Yeah, just they have one or two houses. Mm-hmm. It you know, that's not massive. We're not talking about that right now. So make sure the listeners understand.
If you're trying to build wealth and retire, I mean, I guess you could categorize it like
that's
that.
That's a good way to say it.
You're not going to categorize off one single family home or two or three.
No, I mean,
but
two houses. 30. Two houses is probably equivalent to $8,000 to $10,000 net income a year after it's paid off and all your expenses. I mean that's
if the stars align.
That's not retirement money. No. That's not lifestyle change. There's no shift. I mean that's a little extra. You know, take your wife to dinner, do some extra things with the kids,
pay a car note,
that kind of stuff. But that's not taking care of your full monthly expense. So,
Dan, what else when it comes to what does it take?
I think you have to have a plan.
Yeah. You know, what do you mean by that? Like a plan?
You know, and we'll get that in the coming weeks about getting ready, or, you know, now you're ready, but like getting your team, you know, what type of properties, how many, who's going to finance them, you know, like.
And this is super important because if you don't have this, you're going to be willy nilly everywhere.
Yeah. And you're just going to be stumbling and it's going to feel rough, you know, but if you have a plan and you got your team and you got everything lined out, now the plan's going to have to be adjusted. That's what I wrote, you know. Just readjust that plan, you know, like it's going to, you know, you're creating a perfect world plan. This is where I'm going. This is what I'm doing.
But inevitably,
you're going to have to adjust it and move it. And so again, that's something you got to understand. Like you might have said you're going to go with X contractor and you get into it and
he's terrible
or too costly, or he can't get to your bids fast enough to make offers. I mean, so you have to like adjust on the fly, but at least you know you got the plan to now I just need a different contractor.
Yeah.
And then after the contractor, who's your closing attorney and all that kind of stuff. So have that kind of laid out.
So the plan, here's something else I've always, and this applies to a lot of stuff, but continuous learning. You're going to constantly be learning and educating yourself on the process. I've been a licensed real estate agent since 2002. And there's not a month, I won't say day but there's not a month that goes by that I don't hear something new or learn something new or hear of somebody doing something different than what I'd previously thought, was a way to do it. You're going to constantly be educating yourself. There's going to be new products and new, I mean, like, are you still putting in the same floors you were in 2000?
No, I'm on like my sixth version. Yeah.
Are you buying in the same exact areas you were in 2000?
No, there's some areas I won't ever buy again.
So, well, and I mean, that is coming from someone who's been doing, I've been buying for a couple of years now, but you've been
17 years.
Yeah, you're pushing 20 years doing this.
20? Come on now. That sounds old.
I'm only 30, but I've been buying real
15 plus years. How about we just do 15 plus?
Stay with it.
To stay that for the next 20 years. Been doing 15 plus years.
Well, so the message though is that you're gonna have to adapt.
That's right.
I love to use the phrase, like I tell my investors, I turn into a chameleon for them. Whatever their goals are, whatever their, that I'm here to help guide you in the best path for those goals. So I love Randall and Brooke laugh at me every time I say the word chameleon, but I mean, I use it a lot because it's a pretty good analogy, and I think it's something investors want to know they have in an agent.
Agility, that's all you're saying.
I'm not stuck in one path. I'm not telling you that there's only one way to buy real estate, and it's the best way, and it's my way. I actually don't have a way. I have the way that I buy it, and I'll tell you that if you want to know it.
Right.
But there's other, like I don't buy 1% products, but there's plenty of people
that really like that product,
that love the product and love it, and that's fine. So my job is to go get you that best 1% product that I can find.
That's right.
In the best area. So yes, continuous learning and adapting is something. What else, Dan? What does it take?
The next three, really the next four, I think are really critical. Just removing emotion from your mindset. You know, like
how many? This is huge.
I mean, how many times you get an investor and they destroyed my house, and just they get so upset, and it's like, guys, all it is paint and some sheetrock, you know, like, and a little bit extra flooring. We'll get this thing back on the market. Don't, you know, let's don't let it ruin your next, you know, it's kind of like diehard college football fans that just the whole weekend's ruined when Clemson doesn't lose anymore.
And Alabama loses.
Alabama.
We can talk about them losing.
But your team loses, and then you're just done for the day.
Yeah.
You know,
I know plenty of people like that.
Yeah. So kind of the same thing for a house. Like, like, you know, my favorite story I love to tell of me learning this the most is when I had a fire and burned up 4 units my first month of owning an apartment building. Like,
hey, how you're still in it, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
did you not have second thoughts right then of what am I doing?
No,
you didn't even have the right insurance in place. Am I right?
I had no renter's insurance. I was underinsured. Yeah, I had a $110,000 rehab bid to put the units back together, and the insurance wanted to pay me $57,000. I know the numbers. I remember them like the back of my hand. Oh. And yeah, I mean, I was just like, I was 27, didn't know what I was going to do. So that was that. But no, I didn't. I was just like, I got to figure this out. It's that same thing. Like the next one is remove your limited beliefs. You know, if you sit there and say, well, I'm going to have to just give it the bank back this apartment. No, or how am I going to figure this out and make it work? So I just started calling my contractor friends, and I called my attorney friends and got some guidance on how to talk to the insurance company. And
guys, this is not, I think this last 30 seconds is extremely valuable and important. So I almost want to repeat it, but you're not going to get into this and everything's going to be perfect. Dan just shared a story. Your very first thing you bought was an apartment complex, correct?
19 unit, yeah. In Fraser,
had a fire within a month.
I hadn't even paid the first mortgage payment.
Had a fire, $100,000 worth of damage. You didn't admittedly have it insured properly.
That's right.
The insurance company is now telling you they're only going to give you $57,000.
Yep.
You needed 100 and some change.
Yep.
And you battled through that. Talked to the insurance company. You were able to get what? Were you able to get it all?
No, about 85.
Which is better than 57.
It was better than 57. And then I was able to refinance with the bank, you know, and because the appreciation, the time frame it was in, I was very blessed in that regard. Yeah. I was able to get that difference. But I lost a year of paying down that. I went up $30,000 in my mortgage, and I lost a year. So instead of a 15-year path, I was on a 16-year path.
And paying more.
Yeah, paying more per month, you know.
So this is going to happen. I mean, it might not happen to you or to your friend, but it's going to happen to somebody. My mom bought one. First one she bought, burnt to the ground.
I forgot about that.
Not damage. It was gone.
Burnt, yeah.
I mean, there were 4 brick walls. Everything on the inside was gone. She did have the right insurance. She rebuilt the home, and now it's cash flowing, and she's bought more. So, of course, I had, I promise you, it took a little talking off the ledge. Hey, can you imagine my evening?
You're her psychiatrist.
Yeah, I did turn into more of a therapist than a son and a real estate advisor. But yeah, so it's going to happen to you. Just keep that in mind. You've got to fight and find a way through it. So none of this is going to be easy. This is not an intent to scare you. But what it is intended to do is to make you aware that you might have to adjust on the fly.
Yep.
There's going to be some curveballs thrown at you, and how do you react to those? Removing your limited beliefs, Dan, and removal of excuses. I love this one.
Yep.
Talk about excuses. What excuses do you hear?
No time, no money. My credit's bad, or it's not. I don't really have credit. I don't have any knowledge of the industry. It's like, guys, all that's solvable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're just making excuses of keeping yourself from doing it. You know what I mean? I talked to a guy, this team that I know was selling an apartment building, and I could tell before it went south that it was going south. Like as far as he was analysis by paralysis. He was second guessing every single piece of the process.
Spreadsheet professional,
making every excuse of why it wasn't going to work. And they were want me to schedule time on this actually today or tomorrow to meet with them, and next thing you know, they canceled the trip because he bowed out. It's like, and it's because of limited beliefs and the excuses and just didn't, and the emotions, and all that tied into and fear. We'll talk about that next. I mean, that's a big deal. So
massive action. Tell me what you mean by massive action when it talks about what it does take. 'Cause I saw this in your notes, and I didn't, usually I can take our notes and I can add some to that.
Yeah.
Massive action. I want to know what you meant by massive action. Falls under what does it take to become an investor?
I mean, it takes all what we just talked about. It's going to take, you got to dive in and listen to Bigger Pockets and listen to maybe even our podcast, or listen to, or read the book, Millionaire Real Estate Investor. Anything you can get your hands on that people recommend to get that knowledge. And it's going to take time. That number one takes time just to get that knowledge. It's going to take time to get those relationships. Yep. And it's going to take time to get your bank set up. It's going to take time.
This is all massive action. These are all action item plans and things that you need to do.
Again, this is not to buy one or two.
Yeah.
We're trying to set people up to buy 10 plus.
Yep.
I just truly believe you're going to get into this, get in it for 10 plus, houses. That's 10. 20 is really I think the number, to be honest. 10 is like a good business that can sustain itself. 20 is like, I can live off 20.
Yeah, you can.
People can live off 10, but 20, you can pretty much pay every bill if they're all paid off, and you pick the right houses.
Yep.
You can live off 20.
Mm-hmm.
So
massive action. I love it. I'm not going to recap everything, but we talked about things to consider, what it does take to become an investor. And then here are, the biggest obstacle, and it's pretty obvious, but what, Dan, the biggest obstacle that people have with this is what?
I mean, failure.
Or fear of failure.
Fear of failure. Yeah. Fear of losing everything. Fear of losing money. I mean, just everybody has their own fear, fear that people are going to think you don't know what you're doing. Well, no, you don't. I still don't know what I'm doing in every, aspect of real estate. I'm still learning, the finance business, still learning multifamily, and commercial is one that, I'm still learning a ton on that one.
So you're not immune to fear. Even after 17 years or 18 years of investing in real estate, you still have fears.
Yeah. And I don't know. See, I spin it though. I don't look at it as a fear. I look at it as an opportunity.
I do that. I look at it as coming out of my comfort zone.
Yeah. And that's
this radio show.
Did you look at my notes? No, I'm just kidding.
No, I hadn't.
That's right.
No, I stamped up received earlier, but
yeah, that's right.
Received. No, mine has been when I started this radio show, I had been an agent for 14 years.
Yep.
I'm not the agent that takes the picture with me with my cell phone up by my head and puts it on billboards and things like that. So coming on the air with no broadcasting background or no experience in radio whatsoever was an enormous leap for me.
Yeah.
I feel like we've gotten a little bit better at this. It's not quite as choppy as it used to be, but this was a fear of mine to come on and talk about investing in real estate on the radio. So that was just, I had
the same fear. I'm an introvert.
Yeah.
I don't like talking.
Yeah. I mean, this has been, I'd rather not speak to you
at all. Yeah. But here I am on the radio.
Well, but it is true, right? I mean, you've got that, I have that, but what we we knew that this would change a little bit about our business in the sense that we could come on here, and this is not a sales pitch, and the listeners are choosing to tune in, right? Mm-hmm. So we very rarely talk about CrestCore Realty on here. We very rarely talk about what we provide on here versus we're just teaching you how to be an investor.
That's right.
And that was one of my biggest fears. So, I mean,
what's another, can you think of any other comfort zone examples you can think of? Because I think these are good, examples of stories that you and I have been through.
Yeah. So delegating time. I always thought that if I wanted to get done, I had to do it.
You had to do it, yeah.
So I've never had a team like I've had for the past few years here. So I've always just done it myself, or I had one person to help me, and I could kind of lean on that. But even that one person would rotate with different people.
I laugh.
So depending on my team has been one.
Well, I laugh when I hear that because I had the same fear, but I think that how many times you hear people say, well, I just got to do it myself. Nobody can do it like I can. And you know what my response now is?
What?
You're right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But you got to become okay with, we had a president of a bank one time tell us that somebody that he would hire could only do 75% of what he can and isn't willing to do. Because he's going to work insane hours, insane action.
It's his business.
It's his business. But what he would do is hire 2 people at 75%. And
so they could
like,
get the job done.
So now he's like, I'm doing 150%. Now it took me 2 people, but I'm doing 150% of what I could do by myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was a very wise comment that I've kind of hung on to for myself. Just, yes, that just get over the fact that whoever, you use or implement or help leverage, they're not going to. So that's not a...
You got to keep your eye on the prize at the end. And what is the end? For me, and we've talked about this is another thing. For me, it's to pay off X amount of rentals so I can retire. Mm-hmm. Well, all along the way, if someone's going to make money off of me, hard money or whatever it is, it's not the greatest deal. That's fine. I'm okay with that because the eye on the prize, the end goal is what I'm trying to get to. If you go through it a little bit different way, fine. The example you just gave, the guy was, paid 2 people to do one job. He ended up getting a little bit more than that one job. Probably not something he wanted to do. I can't imagine he wanted to hire 2 people to do it.
Right.
But he made that decision. He got it done, and they're doing even more. That's kind of like with what we're telling you. Hard money is not the best interest rate. It's not the best program to use, but if it's one that you can use, I'm just using that as an example, to get to that end road, the end goal to me is what you should keep your mind on. Is this decision right here going to help you get to this end goal? If it is, then continue on with it.
Yep. I just think when I think of comfort zone and fear, I think they go kind of hand in hand. I think, somebody that thought that they couldn't even run a mile and they run half marathons, couch potato to 5K, you hear this, you can do it. If you decide you're going to get off your tail and get out there and train, you will do it. So the same thing we're talking about, like for real estate, you got to train, you got to learn, you got to say, all right, I bought my first house, to live in. Now, how do I go buy my first rental? So you got to expand that comfort zone and get through what you're, if any big takeaway for our listeners today, what are your fears? List them out.
Yeah.
What are your limited beliefs? What do you say you can't do and don't believe you can do? And then get a mentor or get some friends and try to help solve those. This isn't a journey by yourself. That's something I would encourage our listeners, buddy up with some people, and work together. You may not partner on buying stuff or whatever, but at least you can partner up on helping your, push yourself through it, hold yourself accountable and that kind of thing. So
we've got respect your fear on here. What does that mean? What do you mean when you say respect your fear?
Well, just recognize it, and so I always tell people, hope for the best and plan for the worst. Yeah. So an example would be, I'm afraid to buy that $50,000 house because I'm afraid I'm going to be in debt $50,000.
Yep.
All right. Well, talk to enough people to understand, all right, you can put 20% down. Now you're at 40. So your biggest loss is now you're 10.
Yep.
Now you got a note on the 40. Can your personal income cover, a $300 note, and for how long? And okay, well, if it goes vacant for a year and I can't fix it up because it takes $5,000, then, am I okay paying on that house for several years at $300 a month?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, talk yourself, kind of that phrase, talk yourself off the ledge.
I did that with the first assistant I hired years ago. I put 6 months of her salary aside before I hired her,
and bet on her
and myself. I got 6 months to make this work. Let's carry it on through there. It just made me think of that.
Yeah, it's just I call it low cost experiments. Now, I wouldn't say buying a $50,000 house is a low cost experiment.
Yeah,
you just got to say what's the downside that you're going to be faced with. And at the end of the day, if the bank takes it back, say you just fail miserably.
Yeah.
All right. So then your credit's ruined for 7 years. Just think through that. Like, is that possible? Do you know yourself well enough that that's going to happen? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And what I hope to do as if you use an agent, especially if you're using us or me, I'm hoping we're not buying anything we can't sell. Right. Go through a worst case scenario. But I'm really hoping, which is giving it back to the bank. You can't unload it. You can't move it.
Right.
We hope to get you some stuff that you can sell. So, I try to limit the thought of, hey, we got to give it back to the bank. But that is a worst case scenario. Just think about, think that through and go through that scenario.
But I would say, to challenge that, I would say you don't have to give it. Giving back to the bank is like worst case scenario.
Yeah.
If you talk to enough people, talk to enough agents, say, if you had a fire sale, you had to sell it tomorrow. What's that number? So if you bought that $50,000 house, and you put 10,000 down, you've already got your 10. That's a sunk cost.
That's gone.
So now you got 40 left. I would venture to say you could sell that house to somebody for $25,000 tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
So then you're out 15 additional.
Yeah. Look at it
again,
like that. It's just run.
Yeah, and I hate to focus on, the worst, but I'm trying to get over that fear, help people get over that fear. Like, what's the worst that can happen to you?
Yeah.
I mean, I would rather, to be honest with you, I would rather pay $300 a month until I could
give it back,
and then give it back or sell it at a fire sale.
I would too.
Just do it that way until you're ready to fix it another way, get it fixed up or whatever. So there are solutions. You just gotta say, oh, I can't do anything with this house versus that's a limited belief versus what can I do with this house? What will I do with this house?
Talk for 30 seconds about expanding our comfort zones because I want to make sure we get that.
Yeah, just
I mentioned it here with the radio.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you a quick story of my daughter that's been a game changer. We did a leap of faith. This is my favorite story of comfort zone.
Yeah.
20 feet up. She's got anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Always has. That's just part of how God made her.
Yeah.
And it's 20 feet up, and then it's a plank that you walk out for 15 feet, and then jump to try to a bar. And there's 12 of us that did it. She was like number 10. And she's like, Daddy, I have to do this because everybody else, they're counting on me to do it. She cried the whole way up, all the way to the end, jumped, asked her if she could get a modifier. She jumped. But since that day, she knows now she can do about anything.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, It was a game changer
for her.
And so I'm just saying the people we're talking to in our audience, what's your comfort zone? What's your game changer comfort zone push that you're going to come up with that's going to change your life and give it in a different direction?
Yours.
Yeah, find yours.
Hey, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, man.
Hey, appreciate you guys listening this morning to the CrestCore Real Estate Hour. Go to the show's Facebook page, the CrestCore Real Estate Hour. You can see this show here after I'm going to post it and everything else that we've the last 50 or 60 weeks are on there. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
I can't get enough.